So, hello, Dagna. How are you?
Hey Danielle, I'm very good. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. So, this is a podcast for software engineers, for the career development of software engineers. Let me just get on with the introductions. So, we have you, Dagna Bieda. You are a software engineer turned career coach, and you help software engineers to level up in their career by getting crystal clear on their personal definition of fulfillment, strategical planning, and their next steps, and shifting their engineering mindset for success.
Yes, that
As
is
for me,
correct.
right, thank you. As for me, I'm Daniel Tayyab. I'm an electrical engineer, having a strong academic and research background. Along with some professional skills, I am the learning and development manager at my company, TransData. And I have an experience in robotics, and I was also involved in making of the first robotic waitress of Pakistan. So let's get on with the questions. Uh, this is Tech Friday, and welcome everyone to the live stream on LinkedIn. So we're gonna start with the questions with Dagna, and so Dagna, my first question is, as a software engineer yourself, I've read your profile. Um, you you are a software engineer turned career counselor, right?
A career coach, that's correct.
Career, yes. So you might have faced challenges during your career, uh, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So can you please elaborate to me what those challenges were as a software developer, and how could you overcome them? What strategies did you implement to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of want to take a step back a little bit and talk to you about my career in general because um, the challenges that I've had in my career were actually mostly related towards the end of my last software engineering job. And so when I became a software engineer, and it's funny you mentioned you have robotics background and some robotics experience. I actually studied control engineering and robotics, and I never thought about myself becoming a software engineer one day because while I was going through college, I really didn't like programming. So what happened was when I found my first programming job, that's when my team, the people that were much more experienced than I was at that point in time, helped me fall in love with software engineering, with programming, with creating code, with debugging, solving problems, and growing my technical expertise. So, having that start, being surrounded by people who had more experience than I had, I was really on accelerated path. And I realized that I was very lucky to be in that position because I grew tremendously because of the people that surrounded me that had more experience, more knowledge, but also the willingness to teach me, to pass on what they knew and shift my mindset in a way, right? So in college, my mindset was programming is difficult, it has to be complicated, and that produced spaghetti code most of the time because what I was focusing on is solving difficult problems, but not really creating maintainable code. And then what happened next was essentially I decided to move. I My husband and I met, we fell in love, we decided to get married, but he was located in United States at the time, whereas I was back in Poland. So moving from Poland to United States and becoming a software engineer in a completely different cultural setting was a really big adjustment for me, right? So being a minority, trying to fit in, having that different cultural upbringing from the one that was that I was surrounded with in my new American workplace. I needed some time to adjust, and I feel like this was a huge challenge for me as a software engineer, moving between cultures, understanding how what was okay at home wasn't okay here, right? Or what would have brought more success back at home wasn't really contributing to my success in this new setting, right? And
Right.
one of the reasons too that I That was a big challenge. So I went from junior to senior pretty quickly, 2 years and a few months. So relatively quick progression at the very beginning of my career. But then as a senior engineer, I wanted to continue moving up and not fitting into this new environment that surrounded me, as well as poor communication skills, contributed to me being stuck. Right. And these were really big challenges that I now help my clients get past, because that is a very common experience to have whenever you move to the States or to any other country. Like whenever you grew up in a different culture and then you're trying to work and be successful in a completely different country, in a completely different culture, it comes with its own challenges, as well as soft skills in general. As engineers, as we go through our college education, what happens is our technical education gets put on a pedestal, right? And we focus on the technical education, we focus on, the mastery of the engineering skills, but essentially the problem here is that we are not often not realizing that as engineers we work with other people and create products for other people, and so those soft skills that help us effectively communicate and collaborate are really key to advancing in a career. So I hope that answers your question, Danielle.
Yes, thank you, Dagna, for that answer. Actually, there was a problem in my internet, and I just logged into another. So I lost you a little bit there, but I did get your most of your answer. So anyway, um, we even me, I have faced the same challenges as you, communication skills, and I have been put in a position of management. I would say without true experience of being a manager. So I truly understand what challenges you might have faced. Of course, not the kind of challenges which involve a change in culture or things like that. So let's move on to the next question. So employee retention is a very big challenge for big, even for big companies. So as someone who has worked firsthand in this field, what are some good ways to increase employee retention, especially for software engineers in let's say emerging organizations, small to medium businesses?
That is a fabulous question, and I have a note here from reflecting on that question the other day. But essentially, there are three reasons most of engineers that work with me choose to stay in an organization, right? And so one of them, the very first one, is growth.
Right.
If your engineers within your organization feel like they're not growing, like they're not learning new skills, like they are being stagnant, the work is repetitive, and you don't give them any new challenges, they are very likely to move on, right? Because that need for growth, especially in such a fast-paced and fast-changing environment as tech industry, it's really key for retaining growth, for retaining talent, growth. The second reason is being seen and feeling like you belong, right? And so what I'm trying to say here is that it's really key for people to be connected with others, right? To have this idea that whenever they're coming to work, whenever they're contributing, creating a change in the code or whatever it is that they're doing in their particular role, it's really key for them to feel like they're part of something bigger, right? And that they can relate to their coworkers and have lasting friendships, right? The third reason why I see often software engineers, especially, stay within organization, what helps retain talent is inspiring leadership. Right. And there's this cliche quote that people say that people don't leave organizations, they leave bad managers. And that's part of that, right? That kind of sentiment. But whenever you have a leader within your organization, it can be your manager, it can be just, it might be an executive within your company that you're looking up to. If they're able to lead the company in an inspiring way that promotes trust, visibility, growth, community, like all those things oftentimes inspire people to stay within a particular organization.
Right. As you mentioned, the learning opportunities, the opportunities for growth are very important for software engineers. And as a learning and development manager myself, I surely have a few questions regarding this. So, one of the key things I noticed in software engineers is they focus on tech skills mostly. They are versed in, they are good at their technical skills, but they don't they see soft skills as a waste of time. Some of them see that as a waste of time, and some of them see that as not important. So how can a learning and development program can be implemented to increase that interest? What can we tell them? What things can we tell them to increase their interest in soft skills?
One way is to focus on the culture, on the company culture. What is the company trying to pass on, not always like verbally, but just how people are thinking, how, what are the priorities that the business is creating. And so, having that culture and that understanding that, let's say, clients are the priority, or that the employees are the priority, or that the company's vision is to promote ecology and taking care of things that they value and care about, right? So with that being said, creating clear messaging around what's important for the company and how people can, within their roles, contribute to the business growth is really key. So that clear communication, the culture, and as you're onboarding your engineers or new employees, it's really important to focus on teaching them that the soft skills are important. Soft skills on one hand that improve communication and collaboration across teams, across departments, but also helping people understand what the business really is about, like what's the business perspective, what are business priorities, so that again everybody knows that what they're doing in their day job and their everyday role can help the business as a whole succeed. And so I've been seeing that whenever these kinds of messages are clear, um, then people tend to be more inspired to move on to learning more about the soft skills, right? Another thing too is, without those skills, what's going to happen, and that happened for me as well, is because of the lack of skills, you're not going to be heard as an engineer, as an individual. You're not going to be able to promote your ideas within your team. You're not going to be seen. You're going to be invisible, essentially. That leads to frustration. That leads to career stagnation. So if anyone listening to this right now is experiencing that sort of, feeling stuck or frustration, or feeling like they're a senior engineer and they should have been promoted a long time ago, or for whatever reason people are not listening to them, most likely what they need to do is look within, right? Because that's how lack of the soft skills manifests itself in that frustration and career stagnation.
Right. So what soft skills, other than communication skills and let's say when we talk about communication skills, we are talking about how to talk to people, right? And how to convey your message. Other than that, are there any words mentioning soft skills that can be improved for the software engineers?
Absolutely. So the specific soft skills that I work with my clients on, with my coaching clients, is clarifying assumptions, being able to negotiate in a respectful manner, right? Being able to maybe push back on a deadline or renegotiate the scope of work if it's impossible, or having empathy, right? Understanding what other people are coming from, what are their priorities, what are their needs, and how you in an engineering role can support them, but also setting boundaries and expectations, and then being assertive while bringing options and solutions to the table is super key. I've noticed that as I work with software engineers in my coaching, what happens is junior engineers tend to be passive communicators, tend to kind of like sit back, not really be very vocal in meetings, and follow direction rather than be proactive, versus senior engineers tend to be more aggressive communicators, right? Where it's not necessarily their intention. I know because I've been there as a senior engineer myself, where my intention and my heart are really good and I really care about the topic and the best for the company, but how I come across is it's my way or the highway, and then people get defensive and collaboration stagnates. It's not really possible in a situation where people feel that they need to defend themselves because someone is coming across as aggressive communicator. But if you think about it too, senior engineers tend to have the experience and the knowledge and the seniority that they're able to make decisions more swiftly. But if they're not always able to communicate why that decision is best, that will lead to conflict, right? And then finally, last skill that I wanted to mention that is really key is giving and receiving feedback, and what it really is about, how to create a safe space for someone to be receptive to our feedback, or someone to be receptive to give us feedback, because a lot of the times people want to avoid conflict situations. And even if they might have fabulous advice for us, like the one that I mentioned, hey, maybe you're coming across a little bit aggressive, they will often hold this feedback back because they don't want to get into like a conflict situation. So it's really key whenever you're requesting for feedback to create that safe space for someone to provide you that kind of feedback that will help you grow.
Right. So based on your answer, I'm getting that the senior software engineers who are versed, who are integrated in the company already, who are familiar with the company's goals, who are familiar with the business goals, should also be trained to be a more empathetic, and should also have soft skills trainings. Should also have trainings on how to communicate with the people they are relegating the work to, or the people or the team or their team, right? so
Absolutely.
uh, for the senior managers, what kind of trainings, like leadership skills, are necessary to connect with their team?
Well, the important thing is for anyone who's in a management position or leadership position, especially in your one-on-ones, right? As you're in your one-on-ones, having conversations about the person that you're leading, managing, it's really key to understand where that person is trying to go and create the ability for having like a feedback loop, right? Where you give them that advice. Hey, these are the skills that you're missing. This is something you need to work on if you want to achieve your particular goal, right? So providing feedback, but it's really key to also for leaders and managers practice assertive communication, right? So assertive communication is essentially underrated skill that really helps get your message across, right? To make sure that the person that you're talking to is being receptive. And so in those one-on-ones, it's really key to provide feedback that will allow the person to grow. So like what are the things that they're missing, but also feedback on what are the things that they are doing well, right? So they can reassert themselves and realize, oh, this is my strength. Oh, this is what I'm doing good. Okay, because what happens is, it's kind of interesting as we transition. For a lot of people listening here who have like a traditional college degree, what happens is as you're going through college, in every class you get some assignments and then the teacher gives you a grade, right? And that's how you know more or less whether in the opinion of that particular teacher you are doing well or not. Now what happens is when you transition to a workplace, unfortunately you don't get that kind of feedback, right? So being in a individual contributor shoes, it's really key to ask for that feedback, to try and assess what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and just go on that journey of personal growth, right? And that's
Right.
something that I think I see in the tech industry in general, that essentially, um, with the COVID pandemic, that changed how we operate in work environments, and also a significant rise over the past years in mental health awareness, that we're seeing this massive global shift to question assumptions and to dare to think differently and to look inwards. And so I strongly feel that, you know, this that if you want to be a leader of tomorrow, it's really key to go on that personal growth journey and work on the soft skills and work on your mindset and get as much feedback as you can from people that work beside you.
Right. That's a very good answer. That's a very, you can say, elaborate answer for, as a learning and development manager myself, this is the key to engage software engineers. One question I got from a colleague of mine was, he's a you can say a project manager for the
Okay.
software. So he asked me, how can a non-technical, his background is business background. He doesn't have the technical skills required uh, um, for a software engineer for development, but
Mm-hmm.
he's in a position where he's a project manager of a software development team. So can you give any tips for a person of that caliber, a person who is a very good leader, but doesn't know the technical, you can say, nuances which software engineers face in their daily work lives? How can a manager, a project manager, efficiently manage a team of software engineers, a non-technical project manager?
So there are three things that I'd like to say. First of all, one thing that we already talked about, that for engineers to be really fulfilled in the workplace, it's really key to give them this possibility for them to grow, for them to be seen, and be able to, you know, contribute in a meaningful way. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is understanding the difference in priorities, right? So when I say difference in priorities, essentially, you know, it's easy to kind of think as software engineers in this hermetized environment, in their own bubble where they just kind of sit in front of their computer and create products,
Exactly.
right? But in reality, you know, it's key to recognize that engineers and product people, or business side people, work hand in hand to create those products, right? And both of those roles, so engineering and product, have completely different priorities, right? So, like, if I were to list four priorities on the software engineer side, would be creating new features, because that's fun, fixing bugs, because that's fun as well, making sure that things work and are not broken. Then the third thing is refactoring code to either optimize it, clean it up, you know, make it more maintainable. And the fourth priority that software engineers have is learning new skills and new technologies, right?
Right.
Now, from the product perspective, the refactoring and the learning, if it doesn't produce like a UI change, if it's under the hood type of change, these are absolutely not relevant and not important, right?
Mm,
From the
right.
product perspective, implementing new features that go along with the roadmap, absolutely important, and fixing bugs, you know, so things work and they're not broken, especially from the client perspective. These two are the overlapping ones, fixing bugs and implementing new features. The other two that are really key for product, but are not really that important for the engineering side, is meeting deadlines, making sure that the delivery is, you know,
Of course.
on time, and then the business requirements. So making sure that that we fulfill the contracts that we have with our clients, if we're maybe having like a software as a service, or if we're, you know, creating specific products for specific clients, and we have to like make sure they're set up for the clients specifically. So understanding that these priorities are different, and there is a little bit of overlap, but the priorities in general are different, is the second piece of my advice to your friend, the product manager. And the third one would be to give your engineers the trust and the space that they need to be at their best, right? Because I mean, the worst thing that you can do is to try and micromanage them whenever you're not fully understanding what it is that they're trying to do. So give them like giving that trust and giving that space empowers people. to step up, to do their best, to really rely on their expertise, right? And that's something that is a really, really important characteristic that will help any product manager who works with software engineering team, software development team, to bring the best out of in their people.
Right. So, after asking you these few questions, I have come to the conclusion that 360-degree feedback for the employees is a very important aspect of developing careers of software engineers. Am I correct in my assessment?
When you say 360 feedback, can you elaborate a little bit more what you mean?
Yes, of course. 360-degree feedback is basically what you mentioned: get feedback from the employees, give your own feedback, and return a cycle of feedback. Give your requirements, do the task, take their feedback. As a, let's say, for an example, I'll tell you an example of learning and development. Um, let's say I want to produce a course. First, I will uh, ask the stakeholders what the stakeholders and the people who I'm giving the learning and development program to. Um, I will ask them what they want, what the company, what their needs are, what they want to grow in. When I form that course, I will give them that course. They will take that course, and after taking the course, I will take feedback from them. And in that is basically the 360-degree feedback procedure. So 360-degree feedback is very important. What I understand from you from our conversation, right?
It is. However, a lot of the times people don't know what they need. You know, they can tell you, hey, this is why I'm frustrated. This is why I'm stuck. These are the things that are not working in our organization. And a course that you're creating should ideally help alleviate those problems. So it's not always going to be straightforward, unfortunately, in
Of
terms
course,
of, you know, people explaining what they need in order to get past a roadblock that they're facing as an organization.
of course, of course. All right. So, as we all know, the trends in the software industry are changing rapidly. We have we have many technologies that we didn't previously have. We have Web3, we have blockchain, we have many other things like these. So, as the software industry and the tech industry is progressing very swiftly, can you please elaborate some of the trends in which current software engineers, the fresh ones especially, who are which could who are interested in these trends? What are the most interesting trends for fresh engineers? That's what I'm trying to ask.
So, in terms of being a fresh graduate, a fresh engineer, you know, if you want to be successful in your job and grow and really grow in an accelerated manner, I would say following trends is great, but it's not really the key. The key is the mindset here, right? So there are three specific skills that I recommend to focus on for anyone who's starting on their software engineering journey, right? The most important one is having that belief that you can figure things out, right? The second one is get as much feedback as possible, right? And if you're in an organization that doesn't give you that feedback, maybe you work as the only software engineer, maybe you have a boss that doesn't have the skills to provide feedback, then move on and find a different organization that can really help you grow, right? And getting feedback is key. Without feedback, you reach a ceiling very quickly, uh, because we have our own, you know, blind spots, and sometimes things that are very obvious for other people looking from a third party perspective can really help us grow. So that's the second one, get as much feedback. The third one is to follow your own curiosity. If, let's say, blockchain is, you know, something that's a huge hype right now, but you have absolutely zero interest in understanding what blockchain is about, that's totally fine. There's so many other things that you could focus on. So follow your curiosity and make sure that as you look for different technologies and something that you're interested in to follow that spark, because that will help you stay motivated, stay excited at work, keep on growing and learning at a faster and accelerated pace rather than forcing yourself to do something because it's the hype at this point in time and then burn yourself out. Burnout is very common in the software engineering industry, and that's also something I help my clients get past, right? Another trend that I wanted to notice that's not specifically related to technology itself is a huge rise of bootcamp grads, right, that are entering the workforce. So I was able to look up some study, and in 2020 there were about 45,000 bootcamp graduates in the United States versus 75,000 college graduates with computer science degree, right? Which means um, that about half of the grads that are entering, well, about a third of grads that are entering the market today have those soft skills and have those um, maybe a different perspective where they went through a boot camp and they're not overvaluing technical skills. They know that technical skills are important to get them in the door and get into the tech industry. But I've seen a lot of the times that boot camp grads are able to progress, accelerate on their career ladder much faster because they don't have those limiting beliefs about, putting the technical skills on the pedestal as the traditional college grads do.
Yes, that's true. And personally, I have seen some of the juniors, some of my friends and juniors from university, the graduates, who did their engineering or any other course in not software engineering. They were not software engineering graduates. But of course, we don't have our life figured out at the beginning when we are studying, when we are in the university. Things change and our interests change. So my one of my friends is was very interested in blockchain when he learned about cryptocurrency. So he was, you can say, electromechanical engineer, and he went into blockchain um, after graduating. So I saw he had a lot of difficulty overcoming the nuances of learning a new thing. So as you mentioned, boot camps are a very good thing to overcome those difficulties. So for those people, like in Pakistan, there are not a lot of boot camps going on here, um, but there are resources available on the internet. So how can you help those people? How can you know the potential of those people, and how can you induct those people in those programs? uh, what things can we provide to those people who want to change their career into software development?
Well, first of all, it's important to give them an opportunity, right? So to give them an opportunity, hire them, and put them on a team where they'll be able to learn and grow from their surroundings, but also continue their education, right? So as you mentioned, your friend didn't necessarily have that technical foundation whenever they started, right? Because uh, whenever you're going through college, yes, you're getting more of a technical and theoretical foundation behind the programming concepts, right? In a bootcamp setting, you know just enough to get you started, but there's still a lifelong journey coming after the bootcamp where you need to continue learning and understanding and reaching out to people that you work with, to people that you know that have more experience to guide you on what it is that you don't know, like what other gaps you have, So understanding data structures, algorithms can absolutely help. Well, depending on which part of the software industry you're in, like is it more of a back end, is it more of a front end, are you a mobile engineer, stuff like that. So things to consider, but definitely giving the space and opportunity and accessibility to resources is key, right? So I know for a fact a lot of, at least here in the United States, a lot of companies provide like a stipend where software engineers or any other employee in the company can essentially use a certain amount for career development, where they would maybe buy a course on places like EDX, Coursera, Udacity, Stanford University, or any other coursework that's available out there in the internet, and then get reimbursed by their employer, right? So having having that stipend allows people to kind of go out there and try and find out what is best for them, even if the company doesn't have like their own dedicated course to that particular um, domain or topic that they're trying to look for, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Basically, internships are one of those opportunities, right?
Yes.
Stipend or internships, and if, at software houses, even I have done an internship in one of the software houses. It was regarding front end development. Yes, it does affect the people who want to change their field. Okay. uh, there are certain aspects to working in a corporate culture. When we are talking about bigger companies, we have to follow procedures, we have to comply with some of the procedures, and to fully integrate with that, there is a knowledge gap between fresh engineers and the things which are expected from them. So, as a career counselor, do you have any advice for those fresh engineers how to overcome those things?
It's important to reach out, get feedback. It's important to um, for the company not assume that the fresh hires will just figure it out on their own, but have some sort of onboarding program that will help, really explain what those expectations are, right? So um, having a solid onboarding training that shares the company culture, the company mission, the company vision, and what it is important and what those expectations are, will help them be successful. Because if you hire someone and assume they know what they need to do to be successful, you're setting them up to fail.
That's true. That's true. Thank you very much, Dagna, for this session. It has been a very productive session from your side. Um, we will uh, surely continue onwards, and we will surely call you for other questions if we have any. It was really a productive session, and this session, this thing, the Tech Friday we have started, is for career development, is for the growth of the employees, to know that we care about them, and we want to see their growth in our organization as well, and individuals who want to go into freelancing, who want to do their own thing. So thank you for this, Dagna, and surely we will meet again.
My
And
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
everyone who is watching this, we will continue this Tech Friday onwards, on every Friday 7 p.m., or the timings could change. So everybody who has shown up, thank you very much. Everybody who has asked the questions, thank you very much, and special thanks to Dagna for answering those questions very clearly, and being a very cooperative person. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right. Goodbye.